Virgo, courtesy, leading to a steadiness of feeling. It's an interesting virtue, courtesy, and the reason I've thought about it in relationship to this ancient stone fort that I've been visiting regularly is that in the so-called courtly ways of being, when community lives so closely together, there has to be a kind of willingness to work together in such a way that you find yourself being able to, in a way, come to a deep trust in the other, that they themselves, in your small, tight-knit community, would also hold the same standards. Courtesy coming from these kind of higher court standards of manners or ways of working together. And so it's an interesting virtue to think about, particularly in our times, that courtesy and the perhaps lack of courtesy and perhaps lack of steadiness of feeling is more prominent. So when we experience it or when we imagine it, it has a really unusual experience today. In fact, sometimes I feel when I do experience it from the other, there is a certain sense of welling of feeling that comes, because not everybody has to abide by these things anymore. So when we do, it feels like there is a certain willingness to really consider others in the realm of courtesy. And so this willingness to deeply consider others, which in close proximity, perhaps we have to do more so, but how do we carry that virtue in experiences where we're not going to actually see that person again, or we're just passing by each other? So I experienced this courtesy particularly when a group of people have to come to close proximity with each other, that it becomes a virtue that can be accessed, which will lead to these other growing virtues. So today we're working again with these virtues coming from outside, from the environment, from the group, from the place. And if you can connect with this virtue of courtesy, then do so. But if not, then you connect with the virtue that you can experience or can recall as something that has come from outside. And in the meditation of positivity, we allow ourselves, our skin to, in a certain sense, drink in that virtue, so it comes from all directions. And this is quite important. It's not something we're just seeing and, in a way, observing intellectually, but allowing ourselves to take that in, because it's a force, it's a power that is culminated in the heart. And then from the heart, that stream goes up and out of our own eyes and into the environment around us. And we get to see more of these virtues, because virtue streams out of our own eyes towards the world around. Hello everyone, and welcome to this month's virtue practice. This month I'm following something that is a little unusual, because I'm at a place called Knockdrum Fort Stone Circle. It's in West Cork, and it's a place that I've been to before, in fact several times, and it's unusual because one would not really think of a stone fort as a holy site or a sacred site. But this came about through a connection with someone called Rory Duff. Now, some of you may know of Rory. He is a scientist, but his work really connected to ley lines. And he did a lot of work around that, connected also himself to Rudolf Steiner's work. I met up with him a few years ago, and he gave me certain indications. When I told him where I was living in West Cork, he said, well, there is actually a very important ley line there, a junction at that point. Now, part of Rory's work was to gather people at different parts of the spiritual year at different holy sites, and for them to meditate there with that so-called doorway being open or more available. So he'd been doing a lot of research and a lot of work on ley lines and the human beings, in a way, relationship to these sacred sites. And as I said, I would not have thought of this place as one of those places, but again, we find holy places for different reasons, and one of the reasons people connect with a holy place is because of this ley line, a spiritual junction or a connection between the cosmos and the earth, where there are these possibilities for more consciousness or connectedness, and many of them are linked to sun or cosmic happenings in relationship to the earth, such as Stonehenge, for instance. But others seem to hold another purpose. So for the preparation for Michaelmas this year, which I'll be starting in a way next week or in a couple of weeks, I will begin that preparation. I'm going to follow in England the Michael line, which starts at Mount Michael, and Mount Michael is an island that you can reach when the tide is out, and like other points that really illuminate the connection with Michael, there was a vision of Michael by some fishermen in the area which actually protected them. Now, this Mount Michael is on the Michael sphere, which is 7 points, which includes Skellig Michael as the first point and ends at Mount Carmel. And it's one of the points, and I have been to a few of them, and they really do hold something. So the starting point for the Michael line, which begins in the tip of Cornwall in the UK and goes across the country, is where I'm going to start the preparation. And that really connects for me this quality of sacred sites or places that are not necessary places of worship or pilgrimage in some of the traditional senses, but much more connected to energetic sites, these ley lines, these earthly cosmic connections that may have been lost through the ages, but some people are still finding their way there, and having experiences there. So I don't think I would have found my way to this particular fort if it was not for the suggestion of Rory Duff. Yes, it is a monument in Ireland, but I probably would have been more drawn to the many, many stone circles that are in this area. And there's so many places here which were clearly places of worship and importance. But because of his work and encountering his connection to the ley lines, I did come here, and in fact I've been here several times. And it's not being here that has had the greatest impression on me, but what happens in my inner life, in my meditative space, after being here. So I've been here a few times with different friends, and I've been here alone. I usually spend the time in meditation, even though it's a very beautiful part of Ireland, and the environment is a place to visit for the natural beauty. It's the meditation here that I feel is very available. But for me, what takes place the night after, or the few nights after being here, has been what's revealed to me that this really is a special place. It has something of a healing capacity, which I think the ley lines are often connected to. That when the earthly world and the cosmic connection is in harmony, then there is health-giving forces in those places. Now, I know that there are different ley lines, and those of you that are connected very strongly with that will know that there are different doorways and they have different activities. And I'm not trying to say I know much about any of that, but the experience of being here, the meditation quality, and then what happens after being here, which I think is something to consider. It's not just the day event, but the night events that awaken something in us about the places we have visited and what they speak into our being. Now, that's my introduction to this place, because I wanted to introduce each of these sort of holy or sacred places. Can be very individual. They can be because they're clearly places of worship, but they can also be ancient sites of connection that are often forgotten. And these ley lines may be part of that. And I'm really looking forward to the Michaelmas preparation to see what I can discover in my relationship to Michael through this particular ley line. And Michael having such a connection also to the English landscape, as he does to many cultures, of course, because it is Michael. So today with me I have invited my good friend Andrew White.
Hello.
And Andrew, many of you would have known from last year's work, where we got the opportunity to engage with the virtue practice through his music, which I know for many of you has been very powerful. But one of the reasons to work with Andrew in this way is he has not just a meditative capacity, but that sensitivity to places. And so I've invited him here because this is not an easy place to pick up what is here when you're here. It's actually a place where it's after you've been here that there is, well, at least my experience, it's in the after experience that I realised, well, this place really holds something. Yeah, so how has the experience of being here for you so far?
Well, just in the last 10 minutes or 20 minutes of being here, first, physically, you feel a sort of aloneness looking out, and it feels like a place that would have been a hermitage, but sitting here, actually going inside, I'm quite surprised to feel a real lightness and an ease of slipping into meditation. And perhaps that's why before meditating, there's this sense of looking out to the horizon and all around, and it feels like a hermitage or a place. I mean, obviously it was a place for, seeing if people were coming across the sea. But I think entwined with that, it was a place where people maybe who were engaged in that also, but engaged in contemplation, because it feels such an easy space to access here.
Yeah, it's interesting you use that word light and ease, because that's interesting given the fact that it's a fort and it's there to guard and, look out. You wouldn't imagine these words light and ease, but that's actually what I experienced too. The light, and you just immediately turning inward, the lightness and ease of which the meditative space is available.
You can actually feel, now, just as you were saying that, I'm actually starting to feel like my body slightly vibrating, very gently.
Right. Well, interestingly, I can't say how it will be for others. And certainly it may require, as Rory indicates, a meditation at the site. But I have found that this sort of shift that happens in the body is what gives some kind of healing effect after being here. And I know one time I came here, I had been struggling for a long time with trying to overcome a virus, and afterwards it was just shifted, and within days of the meditation here, I was in quite a different place. And this is what's so interesting for me about so-called holy or sacred sites. They provide different things for us. And, of course, the natural world, we could all say we find some harmony in. But then, and there are these places of worship which are incredible around the world, where we feel people have pilgrimaged to for so long. And yet this place would not be a place of spiritual pilgrimage. But because of what it offers here in this other activity, there really is a doorway.
That's undoubtable. You can really feel it. And like I said, when you first get here, because it's quite a stunning piece to look at, the old stone circle, that you immediately feel the sense of isolation. And so it's quite, I was not expecting at all to go in and feel immediately this almost like light coming, and the lightness and ease of which, how sometimes you have to battle to get into your meditative space, but here it's like it's like slipping into a river.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's interesting for me to do this journey through the micro line to get a sense of, yes, there will be places that are sort of outward physical spots, but there is this line of this connection to the micro stream that I think will be really something to sort of sense of what does that mean, because here we are recognizing this meditation, the ease of it. You're also recognizing something of this healing activity, although maybe you wouldn't put those words on it now, but for me that's what I've recognized it to become.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested now that you've said that to see how the next few days and nights are. Yeah, I would not have put it in that way myself. But what you can feel is definitely something going on. So I'm really interested to see what happens in the nightlife.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is significant when we're working with these sacred sites or places, that there is the experience right there and then there are the echoed or reflective or mirrored encounters in the nightlife afterwards. And sometimes it actually can even be before. So to be aware of that the virtue may reveal itself not while you're there, but when you've left. Looking forward to all of you that can join in for the Michael preparation, and thank you for joining me on this journey.
Thanks for the invitation.
I am the one who shines through you.